When Charles Floyd came to Washington in the 1970s, the federal government and the state governments were about to surrender to the billboard industry.
I learned that ugly was not good business, and conversely that beauty sells. Beauty leads to quality development. And then as part of that, you had to look at billboards. And I had to agree with the United States Supreme Court, who said that billboards, no matter wherever constructed or wherever located, may be perceived as an aesthetic harm. I had a billboard attorney challenge me on that. He said they didn't say they were ugly. And I said, well, you know, if somebody walked up to me and said, Floyd, I consider you to be an aesthetic harm, I would not think they were telling me how handsome I was. They are the scourge of our roadsides.
By working together with other allies who had common vision and purpose and who understood the value of our highways, he was able to cobble together a set of recommendations that set the stage for federal and state control of billboards, which allowed commercial use of the highway space, which is public space, but also allowed it in such a way that it would not be distracting and would not make the highways a terrible billboard alley.
Some people have said this fight is like David against Goliath, which is not true. It's David's infant baby sister against Goliath. And unfortunately, beauty is, for some reason, it's harder to sell. And we let people get away with ugliness that we shouldn't. And it's very important to the quality of our communities and to the quality of our development, economic development.
Highway signage is most useful when it's non-distracting and informative. That can only really be achieved if local governments, state governments, and federal governments are willing to place limits on the height of signage and on the way that signs and messages are displayed. Otherwise, we create these ugly billboard alleys in our communities, and each company has to build it bigger, brighter, and more distracting in order to rise above the clutter that they have created, leaving us with a littered landscape of trash on a pole.
We accept ugliness, which is a shame. We shouldn't accept ugliness. And in recent years, we have allowed the billboard industry to cut trees on our right-of-way, to make it ugly. That's stupid. You know, tourists don't come to North Carolina to see the billboards. It just doesn't make sense. And in North Carolina, the friends in the legislature, the billboard industry put in there, not only do you have to pay them for their property, you would have to pay them for any lost business they might have. It's the only anti-pollution program I know where we tell the polluters that they can keep on polluting till we pay them to stop polluting. And we don't pay them what their property's worth, but what they might earn in the future. And that is a bunch of hogwash. There's a bill in the legislature right now that would turn North Carolina into absolutely the ugliest billboard state in the nation. Where you go out and you look at horrors now, they'd be much, much worse if this, and unless our people, our communities, our friendly legislatures look at this thing and not let the billboard people get what they want, we're going to lose a lot.
You know, as Charles Floyd often said, if you give someone the responsibility to take an action, you must also give them the authority to take that action. Well, we have the responsibility and the authority to protect our public spaces. No one else is going to do it for us, not the federal government or the state government. It's we the people that have that responsibility. We have to take control of our public spaces back and not allow them to be sold for purely private gain.
This is something that's on the agenda of every environmental organization. But the problem is it's number 6 or 7, and they never get past 3 or 4. And it has to be an issue. Right now we're letting the ugly rule the world. and we shouldn't. It doesn't make any sense. And I hope that people will get behind this idea that they were looking, they'd say, well, do we really want our roadsides to look this way? Do we want quality development, or do we want to be the ugly state? And that's the sort of thing we need to do.
Back in the 1990s, I was the executive director of Scenic North Carolina. And oftentimes, usually on a Monday or Tuesday, I would get a phone call from Charles. And he would always close the conversation by saying, what are you going to do about it? It was a challenge to me. I think as we are talking about where we go from here, we all need to ask that question. What are we going to do about it? How can we use our particular skills and interests to make our country a more beautiful place?